Hey, colleagues. I am so excited to be doing this particular episode. And let me tell you why. It is one of my favorites. You know why it's one of my favorites? Because I have been through it. I have seen so many things where people, companies have the weirdest job descriptions and they put the weirdest things in a job description. And I don't know, some of this stuff you're like, did you pull that out of a hat or what? Did you just where did it come from? Like I like to say, you read it and you're like, that's not how this thing works. That's not how any of this works. For example, one of my favorite ones and one of the funniest ones that I come across sometimes is when you ever come across a little office job or a job that's like you know, office customer service or just different things where this person's going to be sitting at the desk all day long. And besides bathroom breaks, coffee breaks, trip to the bathroom, and you can't never know. Every now and then something might come up, right? Something a little bit unusual might happen. But this is the point. Let me get into it because this is one of my favorite things. Like I said, guys, this is one of my favorite things. Okay. For example, you're reading through a job description and the job description just happens to say, must be able to pass a strength test, lifting 75 pounds. Okay. And it's for something, like I said, like an office job or, whatever. And you ever wonder to yourself, what am I going to be lifting? Is it like when packages come and I have to be able to, lift the packages that arrive? Sometimes if you see me reaching for the screen, it's because my screen's acting a little funny right now. But, you wonder, like, you ever wonder, is anybody else with me? Put in the comments. If you had this job description that just didn't make sense to you, like, why in the world would that be in there? What is that about? And it makes you curious. Sometimes, if you don't know better, you're just reading it and it just makes you curious. You're like, well, maybe there really is a reason for this. But the truth of the matter is there are more than one way to skin a cat. And unfortunately, a lot of organizations create job descriptions that are potentially illegal, or at least could put them at risk of violating a law. If somebody can, really, document and dig into it and prove that this job description was written to create what is known as not desperate, like, what you talk about in the dating world, not that kind of thing, but disparate impact. What that means is the way that the job description is written is another way, a hidden way, sort of what we talked about in one of my previous videos, as far as like pretextual discrimination. It's pretext, meaning it's a false reason that they're using to weed out the people they don't want to apply for the company. They're trying to create a barrier. They're trying to get you out of the pool, right? Get you out of the applicant pool, their applicant pool, before they don't even want you to get into it. They just want to set up this weird barrier, right? So follow me on this. Follow me. So there was a day when this particular type of job description, writing or whatever the case is, they would, or not job description, but job requirements. There was a day when this type of, job requirement writing was used to discriminate against, people of certain ethnicities and protect class individuals, specifically around the area of education, because a lot of companies knew these people don't have access to education like these people do, right? And so the way they would write job requirements would be for the purpose of automatically kind of, weeding out the people who were less likely to, based on access, based on finances, based on the common things that would hinder them from having such requirements. They would use job descriptions and requirements to weed out those people. So, and like I said, there was a day when education, of course, was not as, diversely, or equally accessible as it is now. But what happens a lot of times in this day and age, you ever be filling out an application and it asks you that question, that voluntary information, like, do you have a disability? When you think about it, a lot of companies okay, let's just, like I said, we like to keep it, have honest conversations over here, guys. A lot of companies, unfortunately, do not want to hire people who have disabilities of various different kinds, because for some odd reason, people with disabilities don't need to make money, right? I mean, not everybody who has a disability is actually on, disability, you know what I mean, or whatever case is. But the point is, there are people who, have certain health conditions or limitations, and they need to make money. They need to provide a roof over their head, just like anybody else does. And a lot of companies don't want the inconvenience of having to provide what ADA requires, the Adults with Disability Act requires, which is providing reasonable accommodations for those people to be able to, do their job. So what a lot of companies do, some, not a lot, but some companies do, they try to weed that out in advance. And so they, like, for example, a lot of, when you're filling out applications, the volunteer information will ask you, do you have a disability? Right? Which I still to this day cannot for the life of me figure out why ADA would allow them to ask that question. But I understand that the sort of idea behind it is, if people disclose this up front, if people don't disclose up front that they do have a disability, then it's hard for them to argue that the company did not hire them because of a disability, right? If they get turned down for the job, and in fact, right? So there's that. It's kind of catchy, because if you tell companies that you have a disability, then they could, makes it easier for them to discriminate. Here's the thing about the job requirements. Job requirements must be consistent with what is required to actually do the job. And that's what a lot of people don't know, that legally speaking, that in terms of a organization actually covering their area, right? Their job description, job requirements are supposed to be consistent with what it actually takes to do that job. And a lot of companies don't understand that they put themselves at risk of somebody filing a claim against them and saying, look, this company is saying that you have to have a master's degree in order to be qualified for a customer service role. That makes no sense. That's not how this thing works, or how any of this works. Matter of fact, most customer service positions don't even require a bachelor's degree. So when you go through these job requirements and these which is often, contained in the, in the written along with the description and everything, when you go through these, these job descriptions and you look at the requirements that they list for them, it doesn't make sense. It's like, why in the world do you require a bachelor's degree in business for a customer service position? It makes zero sense. And the same for a lot of other jobs. For example, like the example I gave earlier, do you have to pass a strength test to be able to lift 50 to 75 pounds? Have you ever applied for a job that said that, and then once you got into the job, you're like, you remember that little lifting thing? Like, I don't lift anything. I don't have to lift anything in this job. You know why? Because this is especially for this what I'm about to share now is especially for you people with disabilities. Okay. Those companies use that requirement to weed you out of there. In some cases, I'm not saying every case. Okay. In some cases where that requirement is not consistent with what that job really does, what's involved in being able to successfully do that job. They are using it to weed out people of certain ages. They're using it to weed out people of certain genders in some cases. They're using it to weed out people who have disabilities. Because if you think about it, if I see that in a job description and I'm like, oh no, I can't lift 50 pounds. A lot of women are going to just automatically think 50 pounds, 75 pounds, right? A lot of people with disabilities are going to automatically weed themselves out if that's in the job requirements, because can I lift 75 pounds? I have this issue or that concern or this thing or this limitation, right? So a lot of these job requirements, guys, they are written to weed out certain people, right, from the organization. A lot of companies do not stick with the rule of your job requirements have to be consistent with what is actually required to successfully do that job. Whether that's the educational aspect of their job requirements, whether that is, whatever skill set they want to, like I said, if it's being able to lift something, whatever it is, it's supposed to be consistent with what it takes to do that job. And that's it. I'll tell you guys a little story that's really off the hinges, to be honest. There was a gentleman who had a job, and he had been working in this particular role for like 5 years, if I'm not mistaken, for some great number of years. Well, not great number, but long enough to, in other words, to become proficient at his job. And he had been doing the job successfully, getting paid for it, working, long hours, all the stuff, making all the money, whatever. Well, his boss decided to create a little rule and said, hey, I'm going to give you a deadline by which you need to get your GED, or else you're no longer going to be qualified for this job, and I'm going to have to let you go. Now, I literally could, I'm sorry. Okay, it's doing it again. So bear with me if I don't edit this out, guys. It is what it is. But I literally could have, I'm like, it doesn't get any more, in other words, this is a perfect example of, this kind of, pretextual, like we talked about in my last video, of this type of pretext. That makes zero sense. It makes no sense at all that you would be able to terminate somebody, take a job that they have done successfully for 5 years based on an educational requirement that you decided you just wanted to pull out of a hat. This was the owner of this company. This company was making really good money. And this company was making really good money. The company was actually in the waste industry. And if you know, you know, and if you don't, you don't. But waste industry, if you can get in the right way, if you position right way in the industry, in the market, then can be a very lucrative business. And this happened to be a company that specialized in a certain type of pickup and this, that, and the third. I don't want to be too specific, but to make the point, that's what this boss ended up doing. This CEO, this owner ended up doing. Now, this goes back to a point that I've made multiple times, guys. Multiple times. Great ideas, and the capital to formalize those ideas into businesses do not make great business owners. It just does not. And when I say great, I'm talking about business managers, people who run the business. Okay. And again, going back to HR, a lot of these people, just like in his case, he was handling his HR. He was not, his human resources and his human relations as well. Right. When it comes to, making all these kinds of decisions. And he did not understand that what he did was absolutely unacceptable. And that individual could have walked away and sued him with a very firm case on pretextual discrimination. If not just discrimination, even if not discrimination, that was all kinds of wrong. Like the given to the right attorney, they could have taken that situation and had an absolute field day. Matter of fact, as I have in the description below, I am not an attorney. But if you want to consult one, you can email me. I have some that you can contact, very amazing attorneys, and everything. But my point is, if I can say this, if I had been his attorney, if I had been, certified, qualified to handle such a case, I would have said, you know what, let's let him fire you. Let's let him fire you. You're not getting a GED. You're not going to school unless you want to. You're not going to school to get your GED 5 years into a job that you've done successfully well. You've received multiple promotions and raises along the way, because you have a perfect case to prove and all the evidence to prove that this is not a requirement for you to do your job. And it makes no sense for you to be terminated based on this kind of sudden, requirement. Again, pretext, guys, pretext. What does pretext mean? It means people giving false reasons for doing things. They just make stuff up. I'm just gonna, and some people, like I said, like I shared with you guys before, I'm gonna make a video where I'm just gonna give you multiple examples. At least is my plan, is to make an episode where I just give you multiple examples of what I call EPD, expensive personality disorder. This person of this particular time was literally could have been sued enough to lose all of his entire company. And I will never say names, whatever the case is. We're talking about being messy over here. But this is based on this is a true story. And he could have been sued for, when I say he could have lost his entire company just on paying out lawsuits alone. And so, so I just want to share this example and, tell you when you're reading those job descriptions, don't just go through, okay, well, they require, a master's degree. Stop and ask yourself sometimes, excuse me, why do I need a bachelor's degree to work at Dillard's in the perfume section? Why do I need a master's degree to do this, do that, whatever, and question it. And even sometimes you can even reach out to the company and say, hey, I was, reading the job description. I really want to apply for this position. And, I know that, I am capable of doing, the things that are listed in your job description. But based on the requirements, I'm not qualified. And I just wanted to ask, maybe this question, that question, whatever case. Sometimes encourage you to do this, even if you're not looking for a job. Go do it for the sake of homework. Just go read through some job descriptions. Jump online, read through some, and just really ask yourself, as you read through the descriptions, do they match up with, are the job requirements consistent with the descriptions? Again, a lot of people, companies and HR people, I'm telling you, there are plenty of HR managers out there. Trust me, I have gone through some conversations. I have people whom I've helped. I have friends who work in HR, different things. There are people who don't know this stuff, guys. People who don't have a single clue, and they just willy-nilly are just blowing and going and just, flying by the seat of their pants. They haven't studied the laws around around employment. Like I said, a lot of people in these organizations, they have not even read the handbook. Don't let that be you. Okay. That cannot be you, especially over here, guys. If you are one of my colleagues, read your handbook, okay, in the organization. You need to understand, again, that is the doctrine that company is supposedly hinged on, as far as, how they handle things, what their rules and, guidelines and policies and all the things are. And you want to go read that handbook. You want to know what to know. And it will make you one of the most powerful people in the organization. Trust me, aside from doing excellent at your own job. And then also, especially if you're in management, read the handbook. You know how many managers I've talked to who have never read the handbook? I have talked to multiple high-level managers who have never read the handbook. They don't even know. They can't tell you a single thing about it. Read the handbook, okay? At least do that. And then, like I said, I'm going to put as usual, I'm going to put the laws that are that apply to this particular thing, or just the things that it can touch upon in the description below. I want you to understand too, like I said, be careful. If you're one of the people whose job is to write job descriptions, back up a little bit. Go do your research. Understand the the kind of water that you're in, if you will. The fact that, again, your job requirements are supposed to be consistent with the job description. Be careful. Don't get cute. Don't say, oh, I know how we can make sure that we never, hire another person like Julie was. We're just going to throw this in here and say you have to have this requirement. Listen, don't do the company any favors, especially if you're an HR manager. I do want to make a video soon about HR management, and just a lot of things that a lot of HR managers don't know. For example, in one of my future videos, I want to discuss how, if you're an HR manager, or even if you're not an HR manager, do you know that HR managers and directors can be sued apart from the organization based on some law that they break or something that they do wrong to an employee? Did you know that when you took that big promotion and you slapped that big title on, did you know that you can be sued as an individual separate from the company? I want to talk to you guys more about that. I'm going to make a video, and I'll make a note of it. I'll make a video about surrounding HR and, just the things that you might want to know if you're about your HR managers. Maybe you have an HR manager that's violated your rights, and you need to take those steps, guys. Or like I said, if you're an HR manager yourself, be aware of the fact that you are in a very, very powerful position. Now, I've seen it. I've seen how a lot of HR managers start throwing weight around, but they don't understand. They don't understand that if they violate a person's rights, especially one who knows what to know, then they themselves can be sued independently, separately, as an individual apart from the organization. So anyway, that's a whole different video, like I said. But as far as this job description stuff, guys, know what to know. Some of these job requirements are absolutely wild. The things that they require of people, and the fact that they have nothing to do with being consistent with what is actually required in that job. So anyway, I hope this was some good. If you found this helpful, I hope this was helpful. If you found it helpful, please do drop a comment below. I'm trying to really make sure that, I provide good information for you guys over here. And everything. And please do click the links below. Check out all the things to know. You can book me. You see the link down below if you want to have a conversation, if you need my support, if you want to discuss, consulting with me about your particular situation. Also, if you want to join my Patreon and the things we have going on there, guys, you can click the link below and join the Patreon. Officially become one of my colleagues over here. First step in you becoming an official colleague is you hitting that subscribe button so that you can make sure that you stay clocked in over here with me and that we can, navigate this thing together, guys. This is one of my favorite things to talk about, and I'm so grateful. I'll be honest, I confess, I'm so grateful that I let my girlfriends talk me into starting this particular, podcast and, group, all the things, clocked in, because I'm very passionate about it, guys. I believe that we should have, like I said, great, fair, ethical, safe places to work. We spend a lot of our time working, and organizations should be, also, be set up and function in a way that's going to protect them. I love to see businesses thrive. That's one of my passions, which is why I studied business all through all levels of my college career and everything. But I love to see businesses thrive, guys. I love to see business, which is why I have a Patreon group for managers. If you go to my Patreon, look up the boardroom option. That's specifically for people who are in management. Things to know, right? Making sure that you are an asset to the company, not a liability, and being able to network with other people who are also in management of different levels, guys. I'm excited to be publishing this video. I hope you found it helpful. Like I said, leave me a comment below, even if it's just to say hello. Just let me know that you were listening. Let me know what you got out of this video. Please do click the links below. Make sure you check out the laws. Go look at my other videos, and leave me a comment over there too. Okay. But anyway, I hope you guys are having a great day, and I will see you in the next video. Stay ready, stay prepared, and as always, stay clocked in and over here with your girl MB. And I did want to share with you guys. I'm sorry. I know I keep saying I'm going to go, and then I keep talking. I did want to share with you guys really quickly what I've been, please don't do that to me. Don't do it. Be nice. Okay, there it is. Should I edit this out? Okay, maybe that's my sign. Come on. Be nice. Come on. Okay, let's see. Let there be film. Okay, let's see. Come on. Oh, shoot. Come on. Okay, I'm going to end it. Let's see. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and out. I'm just going to edit it.